Welcome to Soul Knowledge. I'm your host, Rocky K of Tune Into Wellness. We are souls having a human experience, and this podcast is where we remember that. Your soul has lived lifetimes. It has a history, a purpose, and a wisdom that goes deeper than anything your mind can analyze. My work through Reiki, hypnotherapy, past life regression, subconscious healing, and intuitive transformation is to help you not just learn about your soul, but to actually know it. Here I'll be sharing real stories from real sessions, lessons from the unseen, and truth-telling about what healing really looks like. The messy, mystical, holy, human, sometimes hilarious, often uncomfortable, absolutely life-changing parts of it all. And I'll warn you now, if you don't like the honest language or the occasional well-placed F-bomb, this is not the podcast for you. Because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can say is, fuck this, I'm done repeating this pattern. So let's take a breath. Tune in. Let go of what you think you know. And let's drop into the wisdom your soul's been trying to give you all along. Welcome home. Welcome to Soul Knowledge. Hello and welcome back to the Soul Knowledge Podcast. This is Rocky with Tune Into Wellness. And today I want to talk about perception. Perception is such an interesting thing because most of us walk through life believing we are seeing reality clearly, when in truth we are seeing everything through our own lens. And that lens is built from every conversation we've ever had, every wound we've carried, every belief we inherited, every fear we absorbed, every moment that shaped us before this moment. Two people can stand in the exact same room, hear the exact same words, witness the exact same event, and leave with two completely different truths about what happened. And that has always fascinated me. One of the teachings in A Course in Miracles invites you to look at something simple, your hand, and question what you're actually seeing. You call it a hand because that is what we were learned to call it. But what are you really seeing? A shape, energy, form, a label? Something your mind immediately names because it has been trained to identify it a certain way. And how much of life is exactly that? Us assigning certainty to something because we were taught to define it that way. Maybe what we call reality is often just agreed upon perception. And maybe some of the biggest tension in the world right now is happening because perception is being challenged. We are living in a time where people are questioning systems, questioning roles, questioning identity, questioning power, questioning what love looks like, questioning what truth feels like. And whether people are comfortable with that or not, it is happening. And I personally believe there is a collective awakening happening. A rising, a movement away from rigid structure that no longer fits humanity. A movement away from domination, labels, and old inherited rules. A movement toward deeper humanity, deeper compassion, and deeper truth. And one of the places I think we are seeing that most visibly is through the LGBTQ plus community. Now, what I'm sharing here is not absolute truth. It is one spiritual lens. It is one perspective that has expanded compassion in me through the work I do in hypnotherapy, regression, and soul exploration. Because this is why I think past life work matters so much. Past lives are not just interesting stories. I mean, they can be. They are not necessarily entertainment. They are not spiritual novelty. When people go into regression, what often comes forward are patterns that are now still alive within us, fears that make no sense in this life, attachments that cannot be logically explained, certain people who feel instantly familiar, certain places that feel like home before you ever have been there, certain wounds that feel older than this body. And what I have seen again and again is that the soul carries memory, not always in exact detail, but an imprint, an emotional tone, in preference, in resistance, in longing, and identity. The soul remembers what the conscious mind cannot always explain. And if a soul has lived as a male, female, nurturer, warrior, mother, monk, protector, outsider, leader, lover, abandoned child, healer, then why would we assume that every soul enters one body and instantly feels completely aligned every single time? Why would we assume human identity is always simple when a soul itself has been so vast? I believe many people walking this earth right now are carrying deeper soul memory than we all realize. And for some, that may show up as knowing very early that something inside you does not match fully to what the world is calling them. And it's not because they're broken. And it's not because they are confused. It is because something deeper inside recognizes itself differently. Maybe their soul has strongly identified in masculine expression across many lifetimes, and now they arrive in a female body and there is tension. And maybe they've carried feminine embodiment repeatedly and now enter differently, but still feel that feminine current deeply alive. And maybe they have lived enough lifetimes across both that they no longer feel fully claimed by either. And perhaps that is why people cannot explain what they know inside. They just know. And honestly, I think this is one reason this conversation has become louder now, because collective consciousness is shifting. More souls are coming in carrying memory that refuses old categories. More people are feeling what they once hid. More truth is surfacing. And while society may call it confusion, crisis, rebellion, politics, or trend, I think on a soul level, much of humanity is being asked to expand. To stop believing identity is always simple. And to stop believing spirit fits neatly into one definition. To understand that the soul has always been far more fluid than human systems allowed. And one of my greatest teachers in this has actually been my own child. When my oldest told me they were non-binary, honestly, the non-binary part did not shake me nearly as much as them wanting to change their name. And because names, they carry story. Names carry meaning. Names carry memory. I named her Wilhelmina long before she was born. I picked that name when I was young. It's a family name. It was my grandmother's name, and it mattered deeply to me. So when River entered the conversation, I struggled. Not because I did not love my child. I adore my child, I assure you. I think she's one of the finest human beings on earth. And it was not because I wanted to reject who they were, but because I was grieving something I attached a lot of meaning to. And I think parents need permission to admit that sometimes love and grief can sit in the same room. The pronouns were also hard for me at first. Not from disrespect, and not even from resistance. It felt simply unfamiliar. It felt awkward in my mouth. And if I'm being honest, it stayed awkward for days, for weeks, probably longer. And it probably still is a little awkward for me. And this is years and years later. And I explained that honestly. River and I had conversations. We had a lot of conversations, open ones, real ones, sometimes really uncomfortable ones. And over time, there was an understanding. There was room for both of us to explain where we were at. And eventually, we came to a place where all pronouns felt okay in our home. He, she, they. And I think sometimes people need permission to admit that love can exist while you are still learning. Because sometimes people are afraid to say they are trying because they think trying imperfectly will be misunderstood. And I hope that everybody gives credit for those trying because it matters. And then one night, something shifted in me. I was sitting there. What if something happened to my child? What if I lost my child? What name would live in my heart? And that answer came instantly to me. It was River. That night I walked into the room. I reached down, touched the foot at the edge of the bed, and I said, "Good night, River." And it felt so awkward, but tender and extremely important. Because sometimes love asks us to stretch before comfort arrives. And I can assure you, eventually comfort did arrive. And it wasn't all at once, but through relationship, through staying open, through listening. And I share this because I know there are parents trying to understand, people trying to understand, people who love deeply but are still bridging language, culture, generations, perception. And I think that bridge begins here. Separate the discomfort from rejection. Sometimes something feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. And that does not automatically mean resistance. Ask more questions than making assumptions. People want to be understood far more than they want to be analyzed. Look at where your own perception came from. Was it inherited? Was it taught? Was it never questioned? And allow room for the possibility that some souls came here specifically to challenge old structures so humanity can evolve. Because maybe people who challenge our categories are often the souls sent to evolve them. And maybe this moment is not here to divide us. Maybe it's here to mature us. And maybe love is asking all of us to become bigger than the boxes we have inherited. And maybe this soul has always been far more expansive than language ever knew how to describe. I'm going to leave you with this. And I want you, and it doesn't even have to be to the LGBTQ plus community. It could be any kind of system that has just always been there, and there are people challenging your beliefs. They're challenging your perceptions. They're offering you time to reflect, to strip away what you have always known to be, to give you that chance to feel what is right in your soul, to what feels right in this world. You know, I remember when River was born, and I remember holding her. She was tiny little baby, perfect looking, I'll tell you. And yeah, that is my motherly perception there. She was perfect. But I remember looking at her and just feeling that soul. And I knew I was going to learn a lot from that child. And I think there are a lot of children in this life, my other child as well, that they're here teaching us stuff. They are teaching us really big lessons. And if you have not stopped to look at your children as teachers, then you are doing a disservice to not only them, but to all of us. Those children are teachers, and they are teaching the hell out of us. Until next time on Soul Knowledge, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in and for doing this work, not just for yourself, but for everyone connected to you. If this episode stirred something in you, trust that. Share it, leave a review, send it to someone whose soul needs it. Your voice and your ripple matter. And if you're ready to go deeper, to explore your past lives, heal your patterns, reconnect to your soul, or work with me one-on-one, head over to tuneintowellness.com or connect with me on Instagram. Until next time, trust what you feel, honor what you know, and remember, your soul already has the answers. Be bold, be light, be you. I'll see you next time on Soul Knowledge.